if I was looking for a 22 to 2,500 square foot home in Milton, Oakville, or Burlington, and I had a reasonable budget, I would probably sell first. And right now is probably the only time in a long time that I would have suggested that. And that's because for the last decade, pretty consistently, sale prices have been, for someone that knows what they're doing, somewhat predictable. Like you have a pretty good general idea for what a house will sell for. But right now, that's not always the case. And I think there's a lot of people out there that might be budgeting based on their house selling for $1 million. It could sell for 1.1, and all of a sudden what you can buy completely changes.
All right. Hello. Welcome to episode 115 of KT Confidential, the real estate podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Ariel Cremendi. He's Adrian Trott. We're going to get right into it today. Buy or sell first. We had a comment on one of our previous podcasts on YouTube. Somebody wanted to know, buy or sell first.
I was looking forward to doing the intro. You just jumped right. You're so anxious today. That's okay.
Do you want to
next time?
Do you want to do a mid-tro?
No, no, we're good. Yeah. So, buy or sell first. Good topic. It's actually come up. I came across the question the other day because we had this person had asked two questions within one paragraph. So I don't know if we missed the second question, but it's actually probably more relevant today than it was before. Because
that wasn't even that long ago. That was probably 6 weeks ago or so. And the dynamic of what's happened in the market, like now we're end of January, coming into the end of January. So we'll give mid-December compared to end of January now is a totally different market.
We'll give a generic kind of answer to help you gauge what the right answer to this question would be. But there's so many variables. But I'd like to also talk about how my opinion has changed. I would say the vast majority of times, first of all, I'd say, I don't know, as a percentage, what would you say? 95% of the time people buy before they sell. If you go back in our decade of the business being open, I'd say it's somewhere in that range. Most people are buying first, historically. Let's just throw out the pros and cons to. We'll start with buying first versus selling first. You go first.
Pros and cons with buying first or selling first, and we're starting with buying first?
Buying first, yes, correct. That was very confusing, but you understood.
We're going to talk about buying first.
That's correct.
Or are we talking about buying first, about buying, whether you buy it first or not?
Now I'm really confused. Let's talk about the pros and cons.
Let's talk about buying.
And is it before you sell?
Are there pros and cons to buying?
And pros and cons and things to consider to help you make a decision. But yes.
Okay. Pros for buying first. You can be a little bit more selective. Maybe not so much in this market, but if you sell first versus buying first, you are more likely to end up with...
You've already switched to selling first.
Well,
I guess it's going to go
relative.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Yes, got it.
It's relevant to each other.
Stay with us here.
Yeah. We're not trying to confuse you. It is a little bit confusing though, and that's how the market feels. And
that's why there's the question.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right. So when you buy first, you can, it depends on your circumstance and what your timeline is, but if you're not pressured for time, buying first allows you to find a home that is at least suitable for your needs and wants. Buying first allows you to, in that process, prepare your home for sale and make sure that it's ready to go. So there's two quick ones. I'll let you add to it. The cons of buying first, depending on the timeline of when your home goes on the market. So if you buy first and you're able to get your home on the market relatively quickly, like in the next week to 10 days, you're buying and selling in the same market, that's great. If you buy because hopefully we're talking about resale homes and not new build homes, because that's a whole different topic altogether.
Well, in that case, you're always buying first. Well, unless you're selling and then renting or something.
We've had people sell and purchase new homes and rent or move in with family and things like that. So, I mean, everybody has different comfort levels, but a few of the cons of buying first is, one, you've got the pressure then that you have to sell, right?
I think that's probably a better approach to the question is what risks do you run depending on the option you choose?
Well, otherwise there aren't a whole lot of negatives of buying first, other than the fact that now you have to sell and you probably need a certain amount of money for that home to sell for. That's one of them.
Yes.
And then lining up closing dates can be an issue if you're buying first, especially if you are on a specific date that the seller of the home you purchased has determined that they have a specific date. So as an example, if that seller says we have to close end of February and it's the end of January, but you absolutely love the home and you want to buy that home and you agree to that, well, now you're closing in 30 days. Your home's not going to be on the market for 7 or 10 days. So you're closing in 3 weeks from when your home goes on the market. The chances of getting a closing date to line up with that are going to be slim. So you end up carrying a bridge loan and you end up carrying both homes for a period of time, if your financial institution allows it.
Right. Which usually they do, but not, they're always going to have limitations on how long you can do it for. And then obviously taking into consideration the cost of it.
Correct.
I think one of the biggest mistakes.
And then the other side of it is if you buy a home with a longer closing, so end of January, you go out, you see a home you love, you buy it, and the seller says, we need a June closing, and you say, okay, no problem. You get your home on the market and you get multiple offers, and the best offer is closing in April. You've got a 2-month gap now that you are without a home, and maybe the best offer, is suitable, like it's compensating you in order to find some kind of accommodation for that 2 months, but you got to move twice. You got to find that accommodation or move in with friends or family, or find a short-term rental, and that can be confusing. So those are just.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that real estate agents make is not properly preparing their clients. So people who are listening, if you're an agent, make sure you do this. If you're a buyer or seller, make sure you consider this. Is seriously considering all the potential outcomes and planning accordingly, right? Because you don't ever want. Ideally, you don't want a closing date to be the reason you can't accept the highest offer to buy your house, or it's not, or you don't, or you allow it to prevent you from buying the perfect house, because it's very hard last minute. If you find the perfect house and it's a desirable home and you're competing against 12 other people and there's a lot of pressure to make quick decisions, if you haven't had the time to make a thoughtful consideration of what if I can't close at the right time? Where will I go? What are my expenses? How can I find interim accommodations? That can, under pressure, very easily, and I've seen it many times, prevent somebody from buying a house. And they miss out on the perfect house because they didn't take the time up front to consider their options. Whereas, what if my closing is earlier? What if it's later, et cetera, et cetera? So I think it's very important to look at all your options. Like, can you move in with family? Are there short-term accommodations you would consider? And just really putting thought into it, because the last thing you want is to miss out on the perfect house or on the perfect sale because you didn't think of it in advance. Well,
and I think whether you are buying or selling, the best leverage you can have, period. The best leverage you can have, whether you're buying or selling, is to have flexibility.
Yes.
If you have flexibility, and I'm talking about lots of things when I say that word flexibility, but a lot of it comes down to when the transaction closes. If you can be totally flexible with when the home that you buy closes and when the home that you sell closes, regardless of when those dates are, if you have flexibility, you are more likely to have a winning offer on your purchase and potentially be able to negotiate a better price. And the same could be said for when you're selling. You're opening up your property now to a lot of people because everybody has a different date probably in mind, right? Like somebody might want to close in March, somebody might want to close in August. So if you are open to the idea of closing any time and have that flexibility, you are putting yourself in an advantageous situation in terms of negotiation. So that's always the biggest thing. And even flexible, like talking about selling for a second, like we just listed a property where I spoke to the seller and I said, we're going to be really busy with showings over the next few days. There's no question about it. Your home shows well. We're already getting a lot of interest. There's going to be a lot of showings. Don't plan on being in the house for the next few days.
Yeah.
So we can allow showings. So if you say, we have to put our kids to bed at 7:00. We don't want showings after 7. Well, there's a lot of people that go and see homes after 7. Or if you say, a 9:00.
Actually, you know what? Just to interject there. So, a house we recently sold, you'll know the one where it was one of my listings. They had 94 showings or something in 4 days. So originally they did not want any showings and nobody in the house after 8:00 because that's when they put their kids to bed. And I had a big discussion with them the day before I went to list to reiterate the importance of encouraging them to allow everybody to come through at all costs. And anyways, they were in the end extremely accommodating. They ended up renting a cabin or something for a couple nights over the weekend because they were so busy. But on the final buyer, who paid good money for the house, came through on Friday night between 8 and 8:30. So, and that was their only visit to the house. So who knows? Had they have stuck to their original plan of not allowing showings after 8, maybe that person wouldn't have been able to get through.
You know how many times I see a property get listed for sale? And this is assuming the realtor has done their job and everything's ready to go on the realtor end. But how many times I schedule an appointment immediately? So the home goes on the market at 1:00. At 1:30, I'm already scheduling appointment for 2:00 or trying to.
Yeah.
And I get a message back from the listing brokerage that says, can you reschedule for 4:00?
Yeah.
And then I call the listing agent and I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, you just listed this property. I want to get in there right away. And my client's waiting for a home like this. I'm going to throw you an offer today.
Yeah.
And then they say, the seller just has to tidy up. They have to clean up, or they have to get their stuff together. They have to get the kids out of the house or whatever, right? Like, be prepared.
Like how much time have they had to know about this?
Be prepared. Be flexible. Be flexible. Be prepared.
So, and that's no fault of the seller. That's the fault of the agent not setting the right expectations.
So, if you personally, were to be in the market to purchase a home right now, and I'll elaborate because I am in the market to purchase a home right now.
I'm always looking. So for me,
would you buy or sell first?
Well, right now, because what I'm looking for is, I'm very picky. I would definitely buy first. But I would be able to have my house on the market very quickly. I would work 24 hours straight to get it ready. So I don't have to paint the whole house. I would do some touch-ups and have it ready pretty quick.
Well, you look at Christopher on our team.
Yeah.
He had his whole main floor, all of the hardwood floors, sanded and refinished. They look beautiful, by the way. Good job, Tom. And had the stairs polished, replaced light fixtures, painted the home, painted the baseboards, even painted some of the cabinetry in the bathrooms, freshened up the grout and the caulking around the bathrooms, did a deep cleaning and appliances and cabinetry and things like that. So, obviously he knows the process, but as realtors, we don't go through it ourselves very often. Like I haven't moved personally in 10 years. You haven't moved personally in 10 years. We've bought properties, but not our primary residences. So he literally from 7 a.m. to like 11 p.m. for a week straight dug his heels in. And he had some help, like the guy to finish the floors, Tom, who did, again, an awesome job. Got a painter in. Our staging team obviously came in and staged the property to make it look beautiful. But a week of hard work and the house looked amazing.
Yes.
So
that's a really quick turnaround considering all the work they did. He was very efficient. Everybody in the whole process.
Painted the front door inside and out, changed some faucets, changed, like really.
Can you hear that? I'm getting called from upstairs. Alicia's at an appointment, so I've got the girls upstairs.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Well, bring them on the podcast. I don't know what to tell you. Throw some candies up there for them and put the TV on.
That's what they've already got.
Parenting 101. Adrian has a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're occupying themselves upstairs while he's doing this podcast. That's how friggin' committed that he is. There you go. Doesn't hate the podcast after all.
No. So just to kind of go back to what I said. So for me, I think that's a big thing too, is depending on what you're looking for. So for me, I mean, first of all, I'm not really I am always looking.
You sound like a lot of our clients now.
I know. But if somebody was looking for something,
the right home comes along.
If you're looking for something that is readily available, like if I was looking for a 22 to 2,500, honey, I'm just on a podcast. Okay, I'll be at just a moment. If I was looking for a 22 to 2,500 square foot home in Milton, Oakville, or Burlington, and I had a reasonable budget, I would probably sell first. And right now is probably the only time in a long time that I would have suggested that. And that's because for the last decade, pretty consistently, sale prices have been, for someone that knows what they're doing, somewhat predictable. Like you have a pretty good general idea for within a small range for what a house will sell for. But right now, that's not always the case. And I think there's a lot of people out there that might be budgeting based on their house selling for $1 million. It could sell for 1.1, and all of a sudden now what you can buy completely changes. So I think it depends on a few things, but I think it's very important to make sure if you're looking for something that's hard to find. And it's still okay to sell first, but just make sure you have interim accommodations.
Well, I think that's the key is what type of home are you looking to purchase and what type of home do you have to sell? Because if you have, as an example, our listing in Carlisle, which was on the market for about 40 days, the first 2 weeks were really busy. I thought we were going to sell it in the first couple of weeks and we didn't. It was just before Christmas, so the timing was a bit off. But anyways, after New Year's, we had a ton of showings, and we ended up selling it firm for a very good amount. Yeah. And the deal got done. But to the sellers, I couldn't tell them and I couldn't predict how long it would take to sell the property, because we did price it a little bit on the high end. It's a very unique property in a unique location with unique features and a unique layout. So it doesn't appeal to everybody, but the person that it does appeal to, they would move quickly on it. And so that's the key. How long would it take to sell your home? If you have right now a 1,500 square foot townhome with 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a finished basement, I can guarantee you will sell that home within the first week, probably firm.
Yeah.
No question about it.
I agree.
If you're in Halton, Peel, even in Wellington regions. So then you got to look at what type of home am I looking at buying. So to your point, if you're looking at a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom home between 2 and 2,500 square feet, maybe there's not lots of them out there. Oh, you see, they are coming on the podcast.
Hey, McKenna, can you go upstairs? I'll be there in a minute, okay? Thank you.
Hi, Tessa. Hi, McKenna.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi, honey. I'll see you in a minute.
They throw you off?
Thank you. A little bit, yeah. That's okay, though.
Daddy daycare.
Yeah.
The joys of working from home, hey?
I know. And I haven't utilized my day at the office once. Maybe I should.
Yeah. It's... Anyway, the topic is one that could be debated for
There's so many things to consider.
There are so many variables. The key is, and this is my advice to people in life, if you're having a problem with your teeth, you want to go and find the best dentist you can find. If you're having a problem with your finances, you got to find the best financial advisor you can find. If you're in a crazy real estate market and you want to or need to move, find the best real estate agent that you can find. Don't find the person that's going to be working for less money and start negotiating on their commissions. Don't just take a random referral from a Facebook group. Do your due diligence and make sure.
It's funny you say that, because regarding what we were talking about recently, I was looking for I wanted to refer somebody to an exterminator type of person, and the one person that's recommended by everybody on this one page is somebody that we receive terrible service from. So you're right, you got to be cautious of your recommendations and do your due diligence.
Yeah, 100%. And if you have the right guidance and the right advice, like at the end of the day, a realtor is an advisor, and they have to advise you on your plan and walk you through that process and talk about the pros and the cons and the potential outcomes of each scenario. And if you do that, you'll be in good shape. But this market is friggin' crazy, and you need to be prepared. You need to have your finances in order. You have to have your deposit in order. Your house needs to be clean and prepared and ready to go. You have to have all those ducks in order, and then you'll be okay. And then it's just a matter of having that flexibility.
Two things you can do to help ease the process and give you peace of mind, but also enable you to be better, in a better position when it comes to negotiating on both ends of the sales or both ends of the transaction, whether you're buying or selling. One, find out if you can bridge, right? Not all people are able to bridge, depending on various circumstances.
Financial institutions are really tightening up on that.
Yeah, so find out if you can. If you can,
the cost. And the cost of it.
Find out the cost. So by cost, your mortgage broker or mortgage agent can sometimes break it down. I don't know if they do it daily, but definitely monthly, and you can do the math. So figure out how much it will cost you. Because if you've got 2 offers and one is the perfect closing date, but it's 10 grand less than one that's 3 weeks later, if you know that it costs you 3 grand to bridge, well, you're still $7,000 up to take the other one. So make sure you know what your bridge costs are and that you can do it. And if you have a limit to how long you can do it.
Yeah, I'll elaborate on bridge. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is at the other end of the spectrum. The opposite to bridging is needing to find somewhere to live. So consider your options for interim accommodations, whether maybe you have a friend or family you can make arrangements with to temporarily stay with them, maybe an Airbnb, whatever. Just be open-minded and plan ahead just in case that happens.
So when it comes to bridging, the vast majority of our clients that purchase homes with our team end up getting a bridge loan to have a gap between the closings. So you close on your new home first, and then you have 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. We have one client that's going 3 months right now before even listing their home. But between closings, a couple of weeks or a few weeks, because
at a minimum of a weekend, right? Like
you want to
never want to close on the same day.
Oh, unless you have to.
I've had it happen. I don't think I've ever done it from about we recently sold a house on Fifth Line. That property, that house on Fifth Line. That's my new sound bit. On Fifth Line, the buyer of that, for whatever reason, chose to close on the same day, or maybe had to. I don't know the circumstance, but the movers had to come first thing in the morning to their house, and they had nowhere to put their stuff because they didn't get the keys to the new house until like 3:00 in the afternoon. So the movers were sitting there being paid by the hour with full trucks, nowhere to go.
I had a deal back in November. We sold. I helped the clients purchase a home that they really liked. There was short supply. They liked it. No problem. We sold their home. No problem. Mortgage agent calls me, says, can't get a bridge. Need to close on the same day. Even though I had prepared the seller and told them, and they'd gone through that process, whatever.
Yeah.
Not happening. Any lender, whatever, the numbers just didn't jive, or qualifications, what have you. Had to close on the same day.
2017, the banks were afraid of bridging too.
Correct. Had to close on the same day. Okay, no problem. So I got it done. Sold their home, closed on the same day as their purchase. It was on a Friday before a long weekend.
Never close on a Friday, especially before a long weekend.
Yeah, well, I don't mind closing on Fridays if we have to, but Fridays before a long weekend,
they are super busy. Lawyers, banks, super, super busy.
Yeah, and then they're closed for 3 days, and everybody, like lawyer offices, a lot of them, they close at 4:00. 4:00, they're gone. They're not sticking around at 4:01 to, help your deal close. Yeah. I mean, some of them will, but anyways, they loaded up the moving truck, whatever, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Got them out of their home. Everything's going good. They go over to the new house, and now they're waiting for the lawyer to close. They got there at around 2:00 in the afternoon. They're waiting. I said, well, usually the homes will close mid to late afternoon, and the lawyer office will call you and say, congratulations, the deal's closed. Come get your keys. Waiting. The mortgage broker somehow, or the financial institution somehow, missed something in their process, and the funds did not come through until after 5:00. And the mortgage agent did a good job of trying to make it happen. But after 5:00, land registry office isn't open.
Yeah.
The lawyer's offices aren't open. So now people have to work overtime, and all 3 parties have to work overtime, not to mention the agents. The moving company is still in front of that house with all of the stuff in there, and it's a Friday before a long weekend. It did not close. So what happened? They had to go and stay with family for the weekend.
Yeah.
The moving company stored all of the furniture and everything in their truck, and then had to come back on the Tuesday to unload everything.
Can you imagine?
And the previous owner, while they left it in a quote unquote broom swept condition, the toilets were dirty and, there's a lot of dust and stuff left behind. Like not major stuff, but, not stuff that you really want to be moving your furniture on top of. Like you would want to give it a deep clean. So I felt really bad. It was out of my control. Our end was going nice and smooth, but things can happen, right? So you want to give yourself a bridge of a week or two or whatever, to allow for those things. I just did a deal a few weeks ago where the seller wants to install pot lights, a new backsplash, and get things done before they move in, especially now during COVID period, because they don't want to have the contractors in there while they live in there. So
Right.
while the home is vacant, they're getting all these people in there. They're getting some new appliances delivered. They ordered a new couch. They're going to get that delivered. So, you can take time with those things. So if you sell first, you're opening yourself up to having to buy something within that closing date, unless you have alternative living arrangements.
Yeah. One of the big risks with buying first is financial, because you have to sell, right? If you don't sell, there's financial implications potentially. The risk with buying first is, selling first is you may be under the gun to buy something. So there's a lot of things to consider, but I would just have a good conversation with a good real estate agent, consider all your options, and it's a relatively easy decision.
It's a scary one though. When you're talking about
Yeah.
$1 million home on average in Halton region, more than $1 million now in Halton, and you're probably upgrading, so you're paying 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. You're talking about a $2.5 million decision, and that's probably your biggest asset and your life savings all tied up in there. A lot of bad stories in 2017 when the market was at its peak and people bought and then had to sell later, and they were caught in that time frame where the market had an adjustment because of new programs the government put in place and things were happening in the economy and this and that. And now my home isn't worth $1 million, it's worth 800, but I banked on selling for $1 million. Now I'm short 200 grand and I can't close on the new home, but I've got $100,000 deposit on the new home. What do I do?
Yeah.
So,
well, and those stories scare people off for sure. I mean, they are a reality. They do happen, but I think a lot of the time they are avoidable if you prepare, right? Be ready to sell. If you're buying first, be ready to sell. Be ready to list your house immediately. Don't, buy and then decide, okay, let's paint the whole house. Get that done in advance.
Well,
so that
especially
you can,
now, like Chris told me
yeah.
the story of, he, during the preparation of his home, wanted to replace one of the faucets. Couldn't find a faucet anywhere. Yeah, the ugly stuff that nobody wants, but a nice, decent, Kohler or Moen faucet. Couldn't find it, to be delivered in a reasonable time, like within a few days or whatever. No, they're all like 6 to 8 week delivery times. So,
for that, that's in our meeting with Rod from Pro Results Plumbing. He was saying that the Moen warehouse is working at 10% capacity. So everything's hard to get a hold of right now. Everything's short supply.
And good contractors
are busy. Yeah.
They're booked.
Yeah.
I was talking to I prefer a couple of suppliers in every industry and every type of business, but I was talking to a pool installer, and they are not only completely booked for this year, for 2021, they are almost completely booked for 2022.
That's nuts.
So if you buy a home,
I will dig my own hole. Just come fill it in.
Yeah. If you want to buy a home right now, and install a pool, you are waiting till the third summer, not this summer, not next summer, the next summer.
Yeah.
So, like even electricians, try getting an electrician in quickly. It's tough, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that does a good job. So you got to be prepared.
Yeah. Anyways, I got to go take care of these kids.
Episode
There's your answers.
115 of
Do your
KT
homework.
Confidential, the real estate podcast. Thank you
prepared.
for watching. Thank you for listening.
Right on
leave
cue.
us a comment. Let us know if you have any
Daddy, feed us.
kids that are bugging you at home while you're working.
Yeah. Who else is in this situation?
Beat
Who
us.
else?
Hashtag everyone.
That's
Feed
Tessa.
us.
That's Adrian. I'm Ariel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for
Feed
listening.
us.
We'll talk to you next week. Feed us.
Say bye. Say
Poor
bye.
kids.
Bye.